Good evening, everyone, to the Ferguson City Council meeting. Meeting is called to order. Let us stand for silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Clerk Pittman, could you please take the attendance?
Councilwoman Noah.
Here.
Councilman Palmer's absent. Councilwoman Burrow.
Here.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Here.
Councilwoman Lipka.
Here.
Councilwoman Nelson.
Here.
And Mayor Jones.
Here. A quorum is present. I would like to address the City Council at this time. City Council, with your consensus, I'm declaring a state of emergency due to the excessive flooding we have and will likely continue to have over the next couple of days based on the amount of rainfall. The city manager, Eric Osterberg, is hereby authorized to appoint the Director of Civil Defense to oversee the recovery efforts. Are there any questions? Councilwoman Lipka.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, I don't know if the rest of council knows, I am out of the state right now. I'm in Alabama, so I apologize for not being there to help out. I would like to ask, could you explain, Mayor, the process? Because I know if we declare a state of emergency, that then allows us to be eligible for assistance. So could you explain the process of us being a state of emergency? I know St. Louis County, I was trying to follow along today with the events as they were happening. My understanding is that St. Louis County has also declared a state of emergency. So how does that set us up for assistance going forward, Mayor?
Eric, would you like to address that, or you want me to address it?
If I may, I did just talk with FEMA today, as well as a representative from FEMA that we've worked with in the past, so I can give a comprehensive update to City Council.
Okay.
So, good evening, Mayor, City Council, members of our committee, our community. As you all know, we were hit with quite a heavy rainstorm last night, which caused pretty significant flooding throughout our community. I first want to just take the time to commend our first responders, police and fire, for being out very early in the morning to get people to safety. For those of you who don't know or did not see pictures, we had several street closures that were closed due to flash flooding, where we had vehicles partially to completely submerged. We had one incident where a vehicle was swept into one of our creeks. So we've had some pretty significant impacts due to our flooding. So again, I want to thank PD and fire for their speedy response. Multiple lives were saved. People were evacuated from their submerged vehicles, and we had people swimming out and bringing them back to the street side to be safe. So as far as the state of emergency is concerned, we now have the governor recognizing that there's a state of emergency in the St. Louis County area. We have Sam Page, the county executive, also recognizing a state of emergency. We have a couple of our state level or Congress level people requesting President Biden federally recognize a state of emergency. And now we have before you tonight, Council, for your consideration, a consideration of declaring Ferguson a state of emergency. Now, as far as assistance goes, assistance from FEMA kind of falls into two different categories. So I'm going to explain these as briefly and as succinctly as possible. First is public assistance. What triggers a public assistance from FEMA is two things. One, $4 million of damages within the county, and then $10 million of damages in total in the state. So we are hearing from city managers outside of the St. Louis metropolitan area of damages that have occurred in their areas. So we are hopeful that we will see damages escalate up to that $10 million state level and $4 million county level, which would trigger public assistance. Now, public assistance funds for FEMA are reimbursed as follows. Generally, within the first 72 hours, any activity that the city takes with contractually to bring people in to help clean up debris, and then two, staffing wise, as far as overtime, is something that is tends to be 100% reimbursed by the federal government, but that is only when the federal government recognizes that. So what I would say to council is that the declaration of the state of emergency at the city level encourages other cities to also make declarations similar to ours, which eventually, when you have a critical mass of those declarations, it catches the federal government's attention, and it's more likely that we'll get that public assistance. To be clear, any funds that are incurred or any damages that are incurred that go towards that $4 million have to be from the perspective of the city's damages. So that's damages to our capital, that's damages to our infrastructure, and that's incurred costs from staffing or contracting to deal directly with the flooding, in this case, the emergency. Now, moving on to kind of the second half, which is the recovery funding that comes from FEMA. Those are the things that are going to impact our property owners and our business owners who were adversely impacted from the flood. So that is not determined by, so the calculation that FEMA makes to determine whether or not something's an emergency, unfortunately does not include the damages to private property. However, if a state of emergency is recognized by the federal government, there will be a number of programs that FEMA rolls out in conjunction with the Special Business Administration, which will free up funding for our special businesses and our property owners. So I hope that as briefly as possible kind of summarizes why it's important to consider a state of emergency.
One more question, Eric, on the $4 million at the county level. That's not just
property as well. So again, I'm actively speaking with other cities. It's not clear to me whether or not we're going to make that threshold, but again, declaring a state of emergency does add to the likelihood that it will be declared federally recognized as a disaster, and then the additional assistance coming down.
Mayor, my questions have been answered, and whatever you want to do, just let us know.
Councilwoman Worrell, she has a hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I just really would like to commend Eric and the first responders this morning for what they have done, probably in the wee hours, about 2 o'clock. As Councilwoman Lipka, I was out of town, so I came back in town this afternoon just to help out. I have spoken with a couple of people in regards to FEMA, Eric, and regarding the businesses and anybody for that matter, if we want to collect on FEMA funds. We've done this before. This is not our first rodeo. We've done this twice with tornadoes. And with both of those, we had a great amount of help from the CERTS. So we don't have one active, but we do have it in the county. And I'm going to be speaking, I have already spoken with the Chief Hampton about that. We could call in if we were to help our citizens with how to collect this data that we need. You will need the help of the CERT. So I'll be looking in on that too, and let you know about that, Eric. I do just want to say, Mayor, that it is imperative that photos be taken.
Right.
Everybody on this call, anybody that you can get to, don't think that something is so small. Mayor, I remember last tornado, you and I worked together on that. It was $500,000 that FEMA added up, that just the certs alone were able to lend back to the citizens of Ferguson. So Eric, that money, it adds up really quick, but we got to have those photos. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Council Borough, for bringing up that last point. On the city's website this afternoon, on all of our Facebook pages, the city's Facebook page, the fire's Facebook page, and the police's Facebook page, we did post an email address that we encourage all of our citizens to circulate around our community. That email address is flood@fergusoncity.com. Just like Councilor Borough has just said, any pictures of any of the damages to your property or things that you've experienced, or just if you want to just give details as well about some of the things you've experienced, please go ahead and forward that information to flood@fergusoncity.com. Again, it's posted on all of our websites. If you're not hearing me clearly, that will help us establish that past that threshold.
And I have my hand up just because I want to add to that, Mayor. There are a lot of citizens I know in Heather's ward, Tony's ward, everybody's wards, and I know in my ward that do not have Facebook, that do not have social media. So I would encourage everyone who is hearing us, who does have it, as you pass the word, encourage your neighbors, encourage everyone to go next door, go knock on the house on either side of you. If everybody does that, if everybody knocks on the house on either side of them or knocks on the house across the street from them to give them that information, that's what community is about. That's what Ferguson is about. This is how we take care of each other, and this is how we've done it in the past. I was part of Jeff Aarons, Gail Aarons, and myself organized the cleanup from the major tornado, Good Friday tornado. So, we can bring in outside services to help, and that's been done in the past. But right now, to facilitate what you're talking about, Eric, and that flood@fergusoncity.com, the information needs to be passed not only by social media, but by mouth from neighbor to neighbor. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nelson.
Yeah, I just was going to concur on the making sure that that residents are checking with other neighbors, because a lot of our residents do not have Facebook. But I also wanted to ask a question regarding outside sources as well. So, and I guess we'll be notified of that, of those outside sources, resources.
Well, I know in the past we used the Southern Baptist Chainsaw Crew. They can come in, after we've got things settled and we know exactly what we need help with. Then services like that are what I'm referring to, that can come in and help us do a cleanup.
Right. Yeah, Linda, that's what I talked to the chief about today. And so as soon as we get some cert business going, that should be, like I said, I just got in. So it's probably within the next 24 hours. We got some more rain coming. And so,
Really?
You got 4 inches coming tonight.
Yeah. And so what's going to happen is I'll get with the search folks tomorrow. I'm trying to get everything together tonight. I'm making a list. So Linda, I'll send it out to you guys when I get everything together.
Okay.
Okay, so as I was trying to finish, because I'm out of town as well. I'm in Orlando. So I wanted to, because even though I'm out of town, I've still been getting calls to my phone since I've been out of town regarding everything. So in the meantime, we'll just be updated on that information as we go.
Yes, if you're talking to me, yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. Like I was out of town, so I was at a conference, so I just got in. But I made a call to Eric, and Eric called me, and so I talked to the chief. But I got to get with some other search to see what we can do. Linda, First Baptist is going to be my first place because that's where all our captains are. And Phaedra, as soon as I get a list together later on tonight, I'll get everything over to you guys as soon as I can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And don't forget to call 211, which is United Way. They will give you immediate assistance. 211.
Ella, I want to tell you about that too. 211 has been flooded.
I know.
Yeah, so some people are telling me that they're on the lines for 2 to 4 hours already today. I'm going to try to get in. I'm going to talk to Vicky tomorrow morning when she gets in to find out if we can. Once before, what we did during the tornadoes, we had a phone bank. I'll try to open that back up at PAC. So a lot going down, but 211 is totally flooded with calls, and people are hanging on. I'm gonna see what I can do for setting something up at PAC.
Thank you.
Overnight that we're gonna be doing. I'm sorry I was out of town.
That's okay. I know several people are traveling at this time. Thank you. Do we have consensus?
Do you need a roll call or just a
No,
vote?
just a verbal.
Yeah,
Aye.
Aye.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for the consensus and all of us working together to have our community to recover is very important for all of us. In light of the state emergency, we will postpone the regular scheduled meeting for tonight until August the 9th. There are some pressing matters that need to be addressed this evening before doing so. And they are one request, the annual liquor license approval. I'm requesting a motion and a second from the council to extend the liquor license for the 2021-22 year until August the 9th.
Mayor, Mayor, I think we need to move that to August 10th, because if you remember correctly, when we were going to do it tonight, it was actually going to be an expiration on July 27th. So if we're gonna move it to August 9th, we should probably make the deadline August 10th to repeat what we were doing at this meeting.
Okay.
I can,
Everyone in? Okay, the motion?
I just want to, I'll make the, I motion it, but I just want to make sure that, Octavia, is that correct to move that to the 10th?
Yeah, the 10th would be better because that would give them to the very next day to learn about, their extension. So yes.
So,
And
so
to
to
actually
make
get
that
the license.
motion, I would make that motion for the 10th that Linda suggested, and I would, I approve that motion.
I
Is
second.
there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Resolution number 2022-30. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read resolution number 2022-30?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-30. A resolution authorizing the city of Ferguson to enter into a towing services agreement with J&I Hauling LLC, doing business as Bolin Services, to provide certain towing, storage, and related record-keeping services for the city and the city's police department.
City Manager Osterbird, could you please explain?
Yes, so good evening, City Council, Mayor in our community. So the city historically has retained a towing service in a franchise-like agreement that states that we have a relationship with the tower where we call them in the event that we need to have a derelict or abandoned vehicle or another sort of vehicle towed away from property. So this is the first of two contracts. We have Code Inspector Gene Diaz here today. Gene worked with Chief McCall, who, by the way, I probably should have started the meeting saying that both of our chiefs today have been active out on the street, boots on the ground all day. They're running between calls right now as we speak, which is why they're not at the City Council meeting today. So anyways, I digress. Gene is here tonight to introduce the towing contracts and make his recommendation to City Council. He worked with Frank McCall, Chief Frank McCall, on this initiative. Gene? You're muted, Gene.
I'll get that right at some point. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, City Council. Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Mr. Osterberg. The city sent out RFPs for towing service. So in total, 5 bids came back. 3 of the 5 came back with missing information. 2 of the ones that returned, 2 of the bids that returned were submitted with all current information. So one of them was J&I Hauling, doing business as Bowling Services. The other one, Ferguson Super Tow. I compared both companies and checked references. The rate that J&I is proposing for us, it's $150 when the vehicle has to be moved immediately. That is going to be charged to the person who owns the vehicle in case of an accident or in case of a vehicle that's disabled on a road and is blocking traffic. The second thing that I looked at was that J&I was not charging to tow any city vehicle for whatever reason. That means a fire truck, that means a school buses, that anything that belongs to the city, they will not charge us to tow. Ferguson Super Tow, on the other hand, would charge us for vehicles $80. Trucks over 8,000 pounds was $100. Trucks over 15,000 pounds was $100. Passenger vehicles, when they had to be towed, was $70. They were charging us tire change $60, road service $60, which none of that was being in the proposal for J&I. They were charging us for. I checked references with several communities and municipalities. They all came back with favorable recommendations for both companies. So there was kind of a wash there. So Super Tow has a capacity of 50 vehicles to store, while J&I Hauling has a capacity of 950 vehicles to tow. So my recommendation, based on everything that I researched and the recommendations from other municipalities, I rated them as J&I Bolin #1 and Ferguson Super Tow #2.
Councilwoman Lipka, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so you actually answered most of them, but my main question is, do we have two, or is it just prudent to have two on the record?
So my recommendation was to have two, just in case we call one and they're too busy to assist. We always have the backup to call the other company to fill in whenever needed.
So the one other question I have is the three that did not have enough information. If there's a possibility that one of those three can do a better service at a more comparable rate to Bolin versus Super Tow, would it be prudent for us to reach out to them and say, hey, you're missing this information. Can you please get it to us so that we can consider you?
I think that respectfully, I don't think that that's something that I can answer. I think that would be up to the city manager to advise.
So Eric, I pose the question to you, sir.
So yeah, what I would say is that this is just what I'm used to doing with best practices with RFPs, that if there's a substantial amount of information missing from the RFP, that we just deem that unresponsive and then move forward with the applications that were responsive.
So with your answer to that, then it's makes sense for me to assume that those three were missing a lot of information, not just one or two things.
Yeah, from my recollections, they were missing insurance, proof of insurance. Not that they didn't have it, but it was just not in the packet.
We also asked for quite a lot of information about what their rates are, because we wanted to have a full understanding of what exactly people would be charged. Because when we're in a situation where we're entering a franchise agreement with especially like a tower, we want it to be clear across the board what all of the costs are going to be, what the capacity they have to actually do the job is, and then to answer your question, sometimes it's hard for us to tell whether or not they're going to be better. Because they didn't provide the information we asked.
Totally get that. Totally get that. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lipka. Councilwoman Burrow.
About these two that you are putting before us. We've had experience with a company that they're a family-owned business. They shut down at a certain time of the day. In an emergency, you can't get to them because they close at 5 o'clock. Did you check that out, Jane, about what the hours were? Are they available 24/7 or not? Because that has been a major problem that we have experienced in this city.
Yes, ma'am. That is one of the things, that was one of the criteria that I made sure that I touched upon with the companies and with the RFP, that we need 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service, not only service for towing vehicles off the street, but also, or towing vehicles that by the police department, also towing vehicles 24/7 through code enforcement. If they have their, so yes, they will tow 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Okay, there are some other questions I'd like to make sure of, that such things as, do we have some additives to that contract? Most towing contracts, you get additives, such as if we had a situation with even accidents of that nature that needed to be towed, or that we needed just to house a car. There are some other things that I don't want to go into here, but I just did you do some back end contract negotiations for additives?
No, ma'am. All that I was charged to do is look at the RFPs, compare them, and based on that, I would make a recommendations, ma'am.
Okay, but you have not.
If there's a concern about additives, though, that's something we can definitely make sure that is addressed in the contract. It sounds like there's a concern for additives in the case of accidents.
Yes. Okay,
Okay.
we'll talk about that later. No problem.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, I'll loop around with Apollo and make sure that that provision is included in both contracts.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Borough. Councilwoman Nelson.
Just a real quick question. I know that Jean gave us kind of some rates in comparison, but do we have any rates as far as comparison for J&I, what you said is bowling?
Yes, we do. So bowling, yes, ma'am. So for vehicles that are, like I said, obstructing traffic, vehicles that are been involved in an accident, bowling charges the registered owner or the insurance company $150 to move the vehicle if it needs to be moved immediately, if it's creating a traffic hazard, or the police department basically determines that it needs to be moved right away.
Okay. Is there rates different for abandoned vehicles as well as anything code enforcement has to have removed as well?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. For abandoned vehicles, it would be let's see, $70 to remove abandoned vehicles. Now, the city doesn't pay to remove an abandoned vehicle. The tow truck company takes possession of the vehicle. They hold it for a certain period of time. If nobody claims it, they do their due diligence and send out information or request to the last registered owner. If it doesn't come back, then the tow company puts a lien on the vehicle. They take possession of it. They sell it. So the city doesn't pay anything for the tow, any tow of any vehicles.
Okay.
Councilwoman Borough, you have your hand up again.
No, they just
Okay.
answered. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm requesting a motion and a second for approval.
So moved,
So-
Linda.
Tony Burrow, second.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Borough,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette. Aye. Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson.
Aye.
What resolution number was that?
Resolution number 2022-30 passes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2022-31, without objections, were introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-31. Resolution authorizing the city of Ferguson to enter into a towing services agreement with Douglas Linville, doing business as Ferguson Super Service, to provide certain towing, storage, and related record-keeping services for the city and the city's police department.
Resolution number 2022-31 reads the same as 30. I tell you, are they supposed to be a separate or the same?
No, it's two different vendors, Mayor.
Okay, it's two different vendors, okay. City manager?
Yes, this is just the other towing contract that Jean gave the breakdown about.
Okay. Fine.
My only question is that it is exactly the same, correct, Jane?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
So it's exactly the same in the requirements, but it's not exactly the same in the charges that they're going to charge us.
Correct. It's the same RFP, but not the same findings.
Right, so they're gonna charge us a lot more for a lot more items than Bolin, but we do need two, so they're our second choice.
Correct. In the event that the first one is not available, which we can't, I'm just trying to give the city or us a safeguard in case that's not available. We have somebody else on the contract that has to respond.
So we have a backup.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am. That would be Ferguson Supertow.
And I will say that in past business that I was involved in, Bolin was one of my clients, and they're usually available anytime you need them, so that's a good thing.
And that was pretty much the comments made from the municipalities that I checked with.
Okay, at this time, I request a motion in a second.
Tony Burrow, so moved.
Second, Heather Robinette.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye. Aye.
Resolution number 2022-31 passes. Resolution number 2022-32, without objection, were introduced by council members present. Hear none, Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-32, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents to submit a project proposal and execute an agreement for a grant and aid under the Municipal Parks Grant Commission.
City Manager, could you please explain?
Actually, we have Parks Director Dave Musgrave here to give you an update on why this is before you tonight.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. This is our typical resolution we bring to you every year to write our parks municipal grants. If you recall, last year we were not awarded the grant. We'll be going after the same project this year. It'll be for the revitalization of the remaining 4 tennis courts, for a sign at the front of the park, as well as a pavilion. And we're also trying to squeeze the water main fix for the rear pavilion in there. They did increase the amount of money that we're able to apply for this year to $525,000. So in the future, I will be coming before you for a budget amendment for that as well. But this is just the resolution to actually write the grant that goes along with the packet. It has to be turned in by the 28th of August. So that's why it was urgent we get it in front of you.
So moved.
Second, Tony Burrow.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Could I ask a question of Dave real quick? Just a real quick question, Mayor.
Yes, you can.
Hey, Dave, Ferguson Florissant School District over where the January Wildbush Park fence is, we got a situation back there. Can that not be added to this grant as well?
I'll be 100% honest, it'll hurt us in the long run. If we split our sites, we found out in the past that we get less points. So that's why we've traditionally for the past few years tried to focus on one location.
Sounds good.
In multiple parks, we get less points awarded.
I get that. Sounds good. But can we talk about that situation? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Clerk Pittman,
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-32 passes. Resolution number 2022-34. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none, Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-34, a resolution amending the 2022-2023 Economic Development Sales Tax Fund budget.
City Manager?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. So it was brought to my attention by Elliot that we had missed a item in funding for our budget, which was the Huzo-Levine contract for our zoning code update. Elliot is here tonight to provide additional information on that item.
Okay, can you,
Well, no, because you're muted now.
there we go. I'm unmuted now. So can you hear me?
Yep, nice haircut.
Thank you. All right, so, what happened is basically between COVID and attempting to get quorum for the plan commission, a number of meetings, and then, in the rush, you may recall from getting the EDST budget and before the EDST board, and then combined with Bailey moving on in just at the beginning of the budget season, we were scrambling and some items got missed. So this is one of those, and let me just give you a brief on what has been happening with the consultant, because they have been doing quite a bit of work. So to date, we started with the roundtable workshops and the tours of the wards. They did a pre-analysis review of the code with myself and with Bailey. They completed their initial code diagnosis and it developed an existing and proposed land use map. They did a zoning diagnostic analysis with preliminary recommendations, and they had last month had a review and analysis by the Planning Commission, which now they go to stage 3, which is on that graphic that I submitted to you. They're going to be refining the code sections and reviewing that with myself, the Plan Commission, and the community, and we're submitting a few sections at a time of the code for review before submitting as a full code for approval. And they're going to be working on submitting development and sign standards. Probably is going to be first. Subdivision administration sections will be next, and then they're going to have a couple of community workshops as are approved in the initial contract, and then the final draft will be reviewed, submitted for review and approval. And we're moving right along. It's just that, as I mentioned, the number of things hit at the same time, and it got missed.
So
Councilwoman Burrow had a hand up. Councilwoman Burrow.
Thank you so much. So Elliot, we have a case here. Bottom line is that we owe them for doing some work.
We owe them a certain amount for work that's done, that the amount that's on.
I'm getting to that. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions in sequence. So
Okay.
work that's already done. So I'm going to think that somewhere along the line, we had approved this service because they wouldn't have been doing that work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it just got left off. My question next is, without it got left off, but was it ever presented with the budget at all, anywhere?
Yes, it was
Okay.
presented. I apologize, but let me jump in because
Sure.
this speaks to your point. It was presented in the previous year's budget. And this is simply saying we didn't complete it this year, which we thought we did, and should have been continued, the budget continuation for the coming year. That's all.
Okay, could that have been the case where we was just dealing with COVID and a bunch of other stuff? That the reason why we didn't complete it in that time frame?
Yes.
Okay, that's good right there. So can you tell me what approximate cost that we're looking at total?
It's in the, here, give me a moment.
$67,596.
Thank you. That,
Uh, As far as I'm concerned, Mayor, we can move to the motion. I would approve that.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Burrow. Councilwoman Lipka has her hand up.
So Elliot, just, outside of all of the reasons, because the reasons really don't matter as long, because we've already approved this. We've already approved a certain financial commitment to this. So, outside of all the reasons of why I got skipped and everything else, if we just get to the point is that we agreed to pay them a contract that did not exceed $74,970.
yes,
And that it got missed in the 2022-23 budget. So to get us clear and back to that number, we're looking at $67,596 to be included into this current budget so that we can fulfill the $74,970. It's not in addition to that, it's to fulfill that amount.
yes,
Okay, so that's all we need to say. So Mayor, we're basically just looking at something that moved from 2020, 2021 to 2022, 23, and we got to approve it and move along.
Correct,
Okay,
correct. Is there a motion in a second?
Don't move, Mayor. Oh,
I
sorry,
would
Tony.
approve. Thank you. I move that it be moved according to what Elliot said in his description.
Second, Linda Lipka.
Thank you. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
sorry, I went on mute. Sorry about that. Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
aye,
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Aye.
Could someone please mute?
Resolution number 2022-34 passes. We have a bill requiring second reading, bill number 7228. I am requesting a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place it upon its passage.
And then there's discussion after that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Is there a second?
Second,
Second, Naquita Noah.
Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7228. An ordinance amending certain sections within Article 2 of Chapter 40 of the Code of Ordinances for the city of Ferguson, all relating to the regulation and issuance of excavation permits.
City manager?
Yes, so council, this is what we brought. This is an item that we brought before you at the last council meeting. This essentially just sets a higher bar of accountability and gives us tools to hold people accountable who come to the city and are digging up any underground utilities, telephone poles, burying, working on the sewer. In the past, what we have an issue with is that we have utilities come in and kind of whenever they want to. We don't really have great communication with them. So what will unfortunately happen is we'll have, for example, MSD come in, work on a sewer line, put that back. We're not really doing inspections. We're not requiring them to hold performance bonds. This accomplishes both of those things. But the way that it manifests itself as an issue in our community is that we spend all of this time and effort planning to revitalize our streets, and then all the money that we put into revitalizing the streets is undermined by the fact that we don't have a good control over these people coming in and doing excavations. So the aim here is to have better communication with these entities, which will ensure that our streets are better taken care of when subterranean maintenance is being conducted.
Okay, council, any questions?
The only thing I would ask is how quick, once this gets approved, this is going to affect possibly the rebuilding of what's happening to our city right now. Like right now, we've got a lot of flooding, and quite honestly, I don't know if I'm politically correct in saying this, but you know me, I don't care. MSD has a lot of explaining to do regarding the flooding that's going on in Ferguson. So when they do come in and start doing repairs, this is going to be imperative that this is in place. So will this go in place immediately? We don't have any kind of a grace period or anything like that. We can immediately start implementing these new procedures, correct?
So what I will say is realistically, there's some things I still need to work out internally with the process. Meeting with internal staff now that we have, now that I know that there's not going to be any final changes on the bill. But it's my hope to have that up and operational within the next couple of weeks here.
Okay, because I just want to make sure that all the utilities that come in and start repairing after this flood are following these rules.
Absolutely.
Okay, my hand is down.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Burrow,
What number is this?
Bill number 7228.
Okay, I got a question for Eric. Eric, and Diaz, if he's still on. We have some situations from the plain Clearwater that I've reported on several occasions in the last couple of months. And MSD has not done anything with their excavations where they come in and they leave us a street torn up worse than what we already had. So I just want to know, I know you got a direct line to them and you've made calls for us, but they don't seem to be responding. They are not responding.
Yes,
we have some serious issues over here.
Yes, we share you in your frustrations. We oftentimes will forward issues to MSD, and it's very inconsistent about when we get the communication back about them moving forward with fixing an issue. So again, my hope is that with this new excavation permit being more robust, this process being more robust, that we have more leverage to hold them accountable and hear back from them in a timely manner.
They have I was just gonna say, they have no problem getting back to us when they want us to do a tax increase.
So Eric, if you would remind them that of all the calls that you have made on our behalf over here, and also Diaz have made calls, and I'm keeping a record of it. So I would like for you to take that forward when you're talking with them. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Bill number 7228 passes. At this time, I'm requesting a motion and a second to hold a special meeting on August the 9th at 7:00 p.m.
So moved, Tony Burrow.
Second, Naquita Noah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, I'm requesting a motion and a second to postpone the remaining items on the agenda until August the 9th.
So move, Linda Lipka.
So moved, Tony Burrow.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. At this time, I'm requesting a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved, Tony Burrow.
Second, Heather Robinette.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone have a good night. Pray for our community, our friends and our families, and let's get out and work and help them.
Mayor Jones, before we end, I'd like to really commend Eric Osterberg on being out in the community, showing his face, boots on the ground, and what's going on. That's to be commended. I appreciate it. I cannot tell you the call, what drove me to come back home today was the calls that I was getting from people saying boots are on the ground. I tell you, it was overwhelming. It's what made me come home. People saying that we're getting things done and we understand the effect of it. And I think a lot of it goes to the people that we have in place. Eric, thank you so much for being there.
And I would also add that I think not only great job to Eric and the staff and police and fire, but I also think our fellow councilman, Mike Palmer, really has moved and grooved in getting people out there and, just doing what he's doing. And hopefully tomorrow he will have a great day. So, yeah. And by the way, Eric, tag, you're still it. So
Yeah, no kidding.
Everyone have a good night.
Can I just say, don't forget August 2nd. Let's thank the staff, August 2nd. Have a good night.
Vote for Rachel Browdy. Yeah.
You can't say that, Linda.
Okay, I didn't. Meeting's over. Remember, it was agenda. It was a.
You still can't say it. Good night, everyone.